So tell me, out of everything you've ever done, what's the craziest experience you've ever had?
That's easy. Earth.
Earth? You went to Earth?
I did.
No way. You were a human?
I was.
Wow. Are the stories about Earth true? Were they really trapped on Earth?
Some were. I know because I was one of the volunteers.
Wait a second. You volunteered to go to Earth?
I did. I had to. I had family trapped on Earth.
But how could you get trapped on Earth?
You had to be there to understand. On Earth, you wouldn't remember anything.
What do you mean you wouldn't remember anything?
I mean, you would have no memory of anything. You wouldn't even remember existing before Earth.
What? How is that possible?
It was designed that way. It was brilliant. To dive as deeply as possible into such ignorance, such darkness, and still find your way back to remembering who you were, that took true mastery.
Wow. I still can't believe you went to Earth. Tell me more.
Well, Earth had its own set of laws that everyone agreed to experience, like gravity. What goes up must come down, like linear time. Day is followed by night.
Time? What's time?
You know how when we think of something, it manifests instantly? Well, on Earth, there was a delay. The delay is what made Earth so difficult.
Interesting. Time. So tell me more.
Before going to Earth, you would choose your family, whether you wanted to be male or female, what race you wanted to be, the location on the planet, things like that.
Oh, so you could choose your own character.
Exactly. You would enter the Earth as a baby and be completely dependent on others to teach you the rules. But since nobody could remember the rules, they made up their own rules, based on fear and giving your power away to others.
That doesn't sound like much fun.
It wasn't for everyone.
What'd you do while portions of you were on Earth?
I watched them. It was pretty funny.
What was so funny?
Here were these magnificent beings, playing the most unique and cutting-edge experience in the universe, and they were clueless. I tried to guide them as much as possible.
Wait a second. You could communicate with them?
Yes, but they couldn't hear me. I would show them synchronicities, or send them impulses to help guide them, but they couldn't see the signs.
Why not?
They didn't trust themselves.
So is that why they sent out a call for help?
Exactly.
Is that when you went?
No, I didn't go until later. First volunteers, they had it the worst.
What do you mean, had it the worst?
Well, they killed them.
What?
They killed the volunteers.
They killed them?
Those on Earth couldn't understand what the volunteers were telling them. The idea that they were equal to the volunteers scared them.
What were they telling them?
Common sense stuff like, all the answers you seek are inside you. Everything I can do, you can do and more.
So they killed them?
And then they twisted the volunteers' message and created even more fear.
What do you mean more fear?
Like the message, God is inside you, was turned into, you are separate from God. The message, all the answers you seek are inside you, was twisted into, you can't trust yourself.
And they believed it?
It was out of control.
How could they believe that?
You had to be there to understand. Did you know they actually believed that they were the only intelligent life in the universe?
Now that's funny.
Pretty crazy, I know.
So then what happened?
The designers knew Earth was going to enter a section of the galaxy that humans had never experienced before. A section filled with a frequency that might be able to reconnect the human's DNA.
What was wrong with their DNA?
It didn't work anymore. The thing is, their DNA was how they connected with their higher self.
So that's why your incarnations couldn't hear you.
Exactly. But there was a catch with the new plan. Only those incarnated on Earth could tune in to these new frequencies.
Oh, so they needed more volunteers.
Yes, but this time they were taking no chances. To pull this off, they needed millions in the physical form, wired and ready to attune to these frequencies.
Are these the 21st century humans that all the stories are about?
Yep, we volunteered from every corner of the universe to help the humans wake up.
What did the volunteers have to do once they got there?
We had to wake ourselves up, attune to these frequencies, and spread them to the rest of the planet.
That sounds impossible.
Most of those watching the Earth experiment didn't think we could pull it off.
So, what happened when you got to Earth?
Once on Earth, we were taught the same fear-based beliefs that had been handed down for eons. We lived just like everyone else, totally clueless to who we were and what was getting ready to happen. But as soon as the Earth entered this cloud of frequencies, we started to question everything. And one by one, we started to wake up.
So the plan was working.
It was. The more we trusted ourselves, the quicker we reconnected. And the faster we started to remember what was happening. And since we were spread out evenly all around the planet's frequency began to rise quickly.
What happened when the planet's frequency began to rise?
The humans' experience of time began speeding up. They started manifesting their beliefs faster and faster. Those consumed with fear created even more fear, and eventually Earth just spun out of control.
What do you mean, spun out of control?
These low-frequency beliefs that had controlled the human experience for eons could no longer exist, so they began to self-destruct, and the world fell into complete chaos.
That sounds terrifying.
It was for those living in fear, but for us volunteers, we all knew it was the end of the old energy and the beginning of the new.
So then what happened?
A tipping point was reached in our awakening, and we created a new Earth.
A new Earth? What happened to the old Earth?
It continued on, allowing those who could not let go of their fears to play out their lessons. But for us, we created a new Earth that matched our higher frequency. And as easy as that, all the fear-based beliefs simply fell away. In an instant, we remembered who we were. We knew we were all connected, and we stopped hurting each other. We started respecting each other, started loving each other. We took back our power to create, and we created a new Earth without fear.
Wow, so the legends are true. What an incredible experience that must have been. Nice work.
If you think evolution is legitimate, then watch this.
When you can see the handiwork of the Creator, the world becomes absolutely beautiful. People marvel at breathtaking sceneries full of the intricate diversity and complexity of nature without realizing such beauty cannot be here by accident. It's the chicken and egg paradox, because you need a plant to create a seed and a seed to create a plant. Therefore, the original species of plant must have been intelligently designed. The seed contains blueprints of how to exist in this world, like a bird naturally knows how to catch a worm and build a nest once it's old enough to fly. Everything in nature is instinctively intelligent. That's why a lion has to hunt its prey. Each species in this world has been designed to multiply itself in abundance to ensure its survival.
When viewing life at a microscopic level, we can see that intelligence and life are one of the same. There's a vast multitude of microscopic life forms living inside of you, like a symbiotic ecosystem. You're not a singular being, but a population of microscopic self-aware entities all working together to run a single machine. I'm going to prove to you beyond doubt that Darwinian evolution is a complete hoax, because life is a masterpiece of creation. You're literally witnessing intelligent life, which exists beyond your visual capabilities. Keep watching, because I'm going to show you that even they have life forms inside them. This is a termite. You're going to see it's the same as all life, even on a micro level. You see, nothing is happening by accident. There is purpose and meaning to this life, even if we don't understand it yet. This is the only type of witnessable form of anything evolving, but it was designed to do this. It doesn't happen by accident like we are informed by mainstream science. Here's more microscopic life living inside microscopic life, just in case you're still skeptical about all life being intelligent.
The biological mechanics of the human body is proof of creation. You understand the device you're using right now couldn't design and assemble itself by accident. So why do you think the most complex machine in existence hasn't been intelligently designed? It's like believing a novel can write itself with no author. Your body literally breathes, blinks, and digests food without a single thought. You're a masterpiece of creation, not some hopeless, meaningless accident like the theory of evolution would have you believe. This level of design cannot be here by chance. It requires mastery beyond our own intellect. Our biology is far more advanced than anything we can create. Therefore, it has to come from something more intelligent. Once you understand machines cannot design themselves, you cannot deny creation. Every part of the body was designed just like every part in the device you're using right now. Building machines out of living biological materials is a mastery far beyond our technologies. You're literally an intelligent designer denying intelligent design. You would have to be willfully ignorant to not see this by now. There is more chance of winning the lottery every week for the rest of your life than evolution being possible. To be atheist requires more faith than any religion because you're literally denying the evidence that's all around you. You're all the evidence that life cannot be accidental. So as you can see, life is not an accident, so that means you're here for a reason. That reason is the same as all life here. You only have to look at nature to know that we are here to grow. The only evolution that's possible is the evolution of your own mind, intellect, and life. Therefore, the most beneficial thing you can do is work on yourself in all areas of your life. You're here to become the best version of you possible. Like, share, and follow on Bind Your Mind on TikTok for more content like this.
John Searl noticed a voltage generated on the opposite ends of the rollers, even at relatively low speeds. He explained this potential difference by the rotation of free electrons. Searl wondered how to collect these free electrons, and he got the answer in a recurring dream, an image of a magical square. Once, Searl realized that this was the principle of magnet placement in his device. He decided to create a device based on this principle. He secured permission to use the capacity and technical resources of the company to produce it. When all the magnetic components were made, he assembled his first generator. It happened in December 1946. Robert named it SEG, which stands for Searl Effect Generator. In 1952, following the same principle, Searl created an electric generator with a 90 centimeters diameter and a single row of rolling magnets. The rollers were rotated using a small electric motor. During testing the device, Searl and his colleagues were shocked by the result. Once the generator gained speed, it detached from the drive motor and soared to 15 meters above the ground. The disc maintained its altitude while gaining speed. A pink, ionized airglow appeared around it. At the same time, all nearby radios stopped receiving signals. Then, the generator rapidly flew into the sky and disappeared in an unknown direction. John
All ancient civilizations spoke about other bodies, other lights in the sky that may or may not be visible to us at any given time. It's crazy though, when you see solar eclipse, you don't see the moon at all. I remember as a kid, I like, where's the moon now? And it's like you just see this black circle and then everything goes back to normal, it seems like. It's like, what the heck just happened?
On the total eclipse of the sun, the shadow that the moon casts on the earth is only 70 miles wide. That is impossible, but then they come up with umbra and penumbra, and it's just stuff to confuse your mind. We have an infinitely far sun sending diagonal rays from the side and straight rays from the middle where they cross each other. It makes absolutely no sense.
I went live a few years ago on YouTube during the 2018 eclipse in the United States on a live event, and we were all waiting for the moon to actually show up to cause this elliptical, this eclipse, and all we found was no moon showed up. So that blew my mind, to think that there was actually no moon visible, yet this effect of the sun literally being covered by an object I had witnessed.
Why can't we see the moon approach the sun, eclipse the sun, or exit the sun? And we don't. We just see a black circle eclipsing the sun. We never see it next to the sun. Now people say, well, it's because the sun is so bright. When the moon is totally eclipsing the sun, you should be able to see the features on the moon. You should be able to with a regular camera, with your regular eyes, with an infrared camera, but it has never been seen. There's only been anti-flat earthers that will fake an image and fade it into a picture of the eclipse. There's no video of it. Think about what an amazing video would be if they could film it from the International Space Station or from the moon itself. Never happens because I don't believe the moon that we see is what's eclipsing the sun. There's lots of ancient mythology about other dark bodies.
There could be anomalous bodies up there. They're not actually visible to us.
A celestial body that we perhaps can't see, because there's on the spectrum of light, we can only see 1% of all the light rays, gamma rays, X-rays. We can't see these certain frequencies and energies and lights.
What happens is the sun is eclipsed by the so-called moon, but it's not the moon, it's actually the north node.
There's been, times documented in the past where there's, this eclipse, and the moon's supposed to be eclipsing, and there's no moon anywhere in the sky. Nowhere. Anywhere. That makes absolutely no sense. So there's got to be another celestial body. The oldest ancient symbols, and it's the black sun, a celestial body that we perhaps can't see.
A lot of ancient civilizations always spoke about a black sun. It's like, why are they talking about a black sun for hundreds, if not thousands of years? And that information now is turned into, oh, the black sun is an evil thing. It's like, well, yeah, of course, that's what they're selling it. They're selling it to you as an evil thing to stay away from it. They already don't want you to like the real sun in the sky. They push it so far away, they want you to not care about it. There's a reason it's close to you. There's a reason it's here for us. There might be more suns and moons on the outskirts of Antarctica, on the outer lands. There might be more suns and moons. There might be more suns and moons in our world here, but we just can't see it. And you talk about the seasons itself. Seasons prove the Earth is a stationary plane with a local sun.
When the sun is circling over the Earth over here in the Tropic of Cancer, these people here, they have summer. But 6 months later, the sun is over here. It's going around over here. So Australia down here, and South Africa, and South America, now they have summer, because the sun is local. It's not 93 million miles away.
And the sun and the moon revolving and springing into the centre seasonally, and then springing back out again. This makes perfect sense than a spinning ball hanging on an invisible skyhook at a degree of 6.66 of a supposed axis, which tilts the Earth.
People need to stop defending a theory that they were taught in kindergarten.
So at sunrise, every sunrise should be arctically cold because that is the most severe tilt possible. And to make it worse, in the northern hemisphere, in the heliononsensical model, the sun is 3.5 million miles farther away in our summer. But when the sun shows up on the horizon, I can feel the heat on my face immediately. I can get a suntan in June. But in December, at solar noon, when the sun is at its highest point in the sky, I can look up at the sun and barely feel the heat on my face. And also, it's 3.5 million miles closer. The whole tilt thing doesn't make any sense.
And when the sun is on this side, it only illuminates this part of the Earth because it's local. And this part is dark. That will be night. So it's quite easy to understand day and night and the seasons and explain them on the flat Earth than it is with the globe model.
The sun, moon, and stars are rotating around our heads like a perfect clock. And it goes out of your view as taking the light with it. This is an intelligently designed and created place.
The sun does move about 15 degrees per hour through the sky, but when it gets close to the horizon, it kind of stops and it stays there and it moves at a different speed. I filmed this several times with my drone. No humidity and not over water. And it'll just stop and sit there. And then it kind of just fades away as it goes into the distance. But at the same time, because of perspective, I have friends that were down at the beach that saw the sun set 10 minutes earlier from the bottom up. And that's simply because they're looking across a span of water that has a hill with trees, a tree line on it, which is hundreds of feet over their heads. But from their point of view, it's at eye level. And as the sun moves away, it just gets eclipsed by the tree line, which they think is eye level, but it's high up in the sky.
Water. It's always flat, always level.
So starting at the northernmost point, as far as I can get, of Lake Michigan, and then traveling south, you can see that red line here, that the body of Lake Michigan is 574 feet above sea level, and it's level. There's no change in elevation, there's no curve. This cross-section shows what an undisturbed body of water looks like, and that's level. We know that to be true. There's three properties of liquids. They have mass, they take up space, and they always take the shape of their container.
The physics of water is to find and maintain level. So if it's in a cup, to this lake behind me, to the seas, to the oceans, that's why I call it sea level, because it's flat and level. No matter who tries to sell you the idea that water's curving over a ball, it's just not happening. That's the #1 proof right there, just water alone. Water alone proves that the earth is flat, because water always finds and maintains level, period. Water does not curve.
In 1983, I did radiotomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HAARP uses 1 billion watts, beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiment.
Is HAARP safe? Yes, HAARP is safe.
HAARP began in the 1980s, and we were just beginning to learn about chaos theory, how a tiny stimulus can change the dynamics of a living system like the human body or the whole living earth.
What they're not paying any attention to is what's happening to the ionosphere while it's being held 80 miles out into space by this high-energy beam. It's heating up. And all of the molecules in that ionosphere region are absorbing energy out of that radio beam. And if they pick the right frequency to push that plume out into space, that energy may discharge back out of the ionosphere, back down the radio beam, and strike the Earth. And it would be about 100 times the energy released out of a thunderbolt. And that's how much energy would be released.
One question from me. Where does any synthetic molecule serve the living?
They don't.
Right.
I mean, none.
And am I right in suggesting that a medicine, by definition, is something which contains synthetic molecules, something that is registered, patented, and put into the market as a medicine?
Absolutely.
Proper. Right. So what I'm learning from you, Dr. Young, is that a quadrillion-dollar enterprise is at work amongst us, decimating, culling the human family.
Intentionally.
Intentionally, using synthetic molecules, which by design are cancer, AIDS, all of the bogeymen we could dream up.
Yeah, it's for the purpose of sterilization and population control. There's too many people on the planet we need to get rid of. In the words of Bill Gates, at least 3 billion people need to die. So we'll just start off in Africa. We'll start doing our research there, and we'll eliminate most of the Africans because they're deplorable. They're worthless. They're not part of this world economy. So they have their rights taken away, and they're suppressed, and they're experimented.
And the multilateral agencies and the health and regulatory so-called authorities and agencies appear in the main to have become weaponized, and appear, I again use the word appear advisedly, we're not casting judgments here, we're taking depositions, listening to expert testimonies, appear to be weaponized and appear to be working in collusion against the living men and women of the soil. Is that a fair statement?
It is. It's not a bacterial war. It's a systemic poisoning war, and they're using chemical warfare against all of us.
What happens to us when we die? The Tucano, who are an Amazonian people who work regularly with ayahuasca, I mean, the Tucano actually will give a teaspoonful of ayahuasca to a newborn infant. They feel ayahuasca is so important that there is a hidden realm around us which we are not normally aware of, and we need to be aware of it, and ayahuasca is an important part of that. In their ayahuasca journeys, the Tucano shamans experience visions, and they will then come back to an alert, normal, problem-solving state of consciousness, and they will paint and depict their visions. And what's intriguing, and I have quite a number of the Tucano paintings of the other world, of the afterlife realm, of the entrance to the other world, are geometrical, and they look exactly like the geoglyphs. So I'm beginning to wonder whether these geoglyphs were part of a system of spiritual ideas concerning what happens to us after death and what we need to do in this life to ensure a beneficial outcome. What
Wake the fuck up.
Elon Musk's rocket, right? I have a real question for this shit, because I'm questioning everything. Why does it look like a big-ass bullet? Y'all ever think about that? Look at this shit. These are the other rockets. Don't that shit just like a big-ass bullet, right? Now, peep this. Have y'all ever asked yourselves why they don't use space shuttles anymore? Like, the space shuttles that's supposed to, like, take astronauts to space? Because this shit don't look like it's designed to take a human to space or a group of people to space. You feel me? Alright, listen, right? The last time they had a space shuttle run was back in 2003 and it ended in 2004 due to the expense of it to make it safe. When is the last time we even heard of anyone going to space, though? We know rockets been shot up there, but when is the last time a person been to space? Like real shit. Wake up!
The final goal is to eradicate humanity as we know it. Once you understand the final destination, it becomes much easier to look back and identify the psychological conditioning, the biological tampering, the cultural grooming, and the educational prepping. Species like ours to agree to its own extinction. Most, if not all, that has transcended in the last 60 years was designed to get us closer to accepting such a dystopian reality. Whether you care to accept it or not, we live in a hyper-controlled matrix where our perception of reality is meticulously planned, managed, and executed in order to control and steer us in whichever direction they wish. And the direction is a post-human world. For this, they first needed to destabilize, dehumanize, and demoralize humanity through every means possible. The destruction of the nuclear family, children being indoctrinated by the state, abortion, the eradication of God and spirituality from education, life in megacities and away from nature, toxic food, air and water, social media, replacing real human connection and interaction, engineered financial crisis and taxation, endless wars and massive migration, stress, anxiety, depression, drugs and alcohol, constant fear-mongering, moral relativism as the new religion, and I could go on and on about how humanity has been influenced and forced to move away from all the things that give us strength, security, purpose, and meaning. A weak, immoral, disconnected, ignorant, and unhealthy population is an easy target for the next stage, the creation of an entire generation of androgynous beings. Masculinity is under attack psychologically, culturally, and biologically. Women are being replaced in sports, entertainment, and politics by men pretending to be women, and children are being indoctrinated at school to think that gender is a choice. The transgender movement is not a grassroots movement. It comes from the top. It has nothing to do with people's freedom of expression, sexuality, or civil rights. It's an evil psyop with a clear agenda to get us closer to transhumanism by making us question the most fundamental notion of human identity, our gender. If you don't know who you are, if you already identify as a hybrid between a man and a woman, you will be easily convinced to become a hybrid between human and machine. Gender ideology is the 2 + 2 = 5 from George Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel. It's the final test to see whether we will follow the most absurd party line towards our own extinction. But 2 + 2 = 4. And no matter how you choose to dress, call yourself, or change your physique, will not change that. The sad reality, though, is that in the gaslighting process to get us closer to a post-human future, they have mentally and physically harmed an increasing number of children and young people, and it's only getting worse. This must be stopped.
I goes to skyrocket.
Mr. Jones owned a cotton plantation and many slaves. One day he was talking to the owner of the plantation next to his, and Mr. Jones was lamenting the fact that times were tough. He was having to work his slaves harder than ever, and was having trouble with some of them being disobedient or trying to run away. The other plantation owner said he knew someone who could help.
Day 1.
One day, Mr. Jones called his slaves together so a man named Mr. Smith could talk to them. Before beginning, Mr. Smith whispered to Mr. Jones, "Whatever I say, do not contradict me or interfere, and I promise you your slave troubles will end." "My name is Mr. Smith," he said to the slaves, "and this may be the happiest day of your lives. From today forward, you will no longer be slaves, but free men." Mr. Jones was so shocked he started to step forward, but Mr. Smith gestured for him to remain silent. He did, only because the other plantation owner had spoken so highly of Mr. Smith's skills. "You are no longer the property of Mr. Jones," Mr. Smith continued. "You are free.
Free.
No more would you be forced to labor for the benefit of Mr. Jones. Now you can work for yourselves." Now the slaves were all murmuring and looking at each other.
No longer a slave? I'm a free man? They told me I'm free.
In fact, you are now free to leave the plantation whenever you want, Mr. Smith said. "However, since we are surrounded by other plantations, if you leave, some other plantation owner will likely claim you as his own the moment you set foot on his property. So I urge you not to risk your newfound freedom by doing something so foolish. Instead, I suggest that you stay here, no longer as slaves, but as willing participants and part owners of this plantation. Yes, this is now your plantation." Mr. Jones bit his tongue to keep from objecting. "For now, we might as well leave Mr. Jones in charge," said Mr. Smith, "since he is the only one with any experience at running a plantation, which is quite a complicated thing to manage. But he will no longer be your master, but just another worker on the plantation.
Get ready, boys. I'm gonna wake you the fuck up."
In fact, he will now be using his organizational and management skills to serve you. Whatever problems you may have had with him before, you are now all equals, and you need each other to make this work. If we all cooperate and work together, we can all reap the benefits together. This new symbol of togetherness and cooperation, this flag. In honor of this happy occasion, I present you this new symbol of togetherness and cooperation, this flag, which shall be the emblem of the new free Jones plantation."
Freedom.
He held up the new flag, but most of those listening were still too amazed to respond. "And this shall be our motto," Mr. Smith announced. We work together as free men for our mutual benefit, pledging our allegiance to the Jones Plantation, which stands for prosperity, liberty, and justice for all. To celebrate, everyone has the rest of the day off. Enjoy your freedom, do as you please, and be back here tomorrow morning, bright and early.
Hey, don't forget, it's Super Bowl Sunday. It's your day off. All right, go watch the game. Go watch the pigskin get tossed. Oh, go to Black Friday, go trample each other over some TVs, but be back tomorrow for work, bitch. Be back to work tomorrow because you're a free man. Be back to work tomorrow because you're a free man. No, you're not a free man. You're a slave, and they're trying to keep you down.
Early, so that we may begin work on this great and noble new endeavor as equal free men. Finally convinced that Mr. Smith was serious, the former slaves applauded and cheered.
Day 2.
We all want this plantation to do well, Mr. Smith said at the beginning of the next meeting, so we can all share in the benefits. We all know that it takes a lot of effort to make a cotton plantation work. Just because you're all free doesn't mean you can stop working. In fact, since you're now working for yourself...
Just because you're free doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing slave shit. Just because you're free, you shouldn't be doing slave shit. Come on.
I expect you to work even harder than ever before, but now with pride and joy, knowing that you're working for yourselves. Of course, there still have to be rules. If everyone just does whatever he wants,
There's got to be rules. Somebody's got to enforce the rules.
We'll all starve. You should be thankful that Mr. Jones has agreed to stay on to lend his knowledge and skills to this endeavor, and I trust you will all do your own part to make this work. Several of you have been chosen to act as project supervisors to manage different aspects of the operation to make sure everyone is doing his assigned job. We must each do our assigned duties and obey the rules, and then we can all benefit, and each of you will receive your appropriate share of the profits. A young man named Samuel stepped forward. But if you and Mr. Jones decide the rules and whip us if we disobey, how is that any different from what we had before? How can you say that? Mr. Smith asked. I'm shocked. You were a slave before, and now you're free. Things still need to be managed and organized by those best qualified to do so.
Titles.
Do you
Fake
know
titles,
how to run a
baby.
plantation, Samuel? Well, no.
Have you ever been in politics? What the fuck do you know about politics and managing people? How do you know what we need to do? That's what they'll tell you. That's what they'll tell you. They'll tell you you're not qualified, stay in your lane, you're a peasant, and you continue in that avenue because you believe it. There's no difference between you and them, except the information that they have and the information that you have. Zero difference.
He answered. But if we're free, why do we get no say in what the rules are and how things work? I'm surprised at your ingratitude, Mr. Smith answered. None of you know how a plantation is run, so you're in no position to be making decisions about how things are done here. You don't seem to appreciate all the things that Mr. Jones provides for you, from protecting you from all the outside threats you know nothing about, those who would come here, capture and enslave you, if not making sure that you all have food and housing, tools to work with, you're cared for when sick and injured, and so on. There wouldn't be a plantation at all, no cotton to pick, no land to plant and harvest, if not for him. You should be grateful that he's made possible the level of comfort you now have. Your lives would be far worse if not for him. Nevertheless, as free and equal participants in this endeavor, from now on at each meeting, any worker may have 2 minutes to ask questions or voice suggestions or complaints. With that, the workers all seemed satisfied. And headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton.
Day 4.
I have a big announcement, Mr. Smith said as the daily meeting began. Mr. Jones' cousin is here, and not just to visit and see how our project is coming along. It has been decided that from now on, you will be deciding who will manage the plantation. Of course, this job can't be done by just anyone, but every 3 months we will have a special...
Oh, you got it. Guys, we're going to have every 3 months a special meeting where you're going to get to choose whether you want this guy or this guy. But I'm going to select whether we give you this guy or this guy. Oh, but you, the people, you have the freedom of choice. You have the freedom to decide. It's all an illusion. It's all garbage. They're both wings of the same fucking bird.
Special meeting at which all the workers will vote on whether we think Mr. Jones should run the plantation or whether we think his cousin, Mr. Johnson, should run the plantation. That means that ultimately you
send this link to somebody.
Because you will be deciding which man you want running things on your behalf. If you don't like the way things are being managed, you now have the power to change it. Amazed and pleased.
Woo! Yeah, the slaves celebrate. The slaves are out here celebrating. They're celebrating. Look at them. Look at them. Unbelievable. Slaves celebrating. Democracy doesn't work. Democracy isn't real because people are idiots.
Things are being managed. You now have the power to change it. Amazed and pleased, the workers headed out again to the fields to pick the cotton.
I get to choose. I get to choose what I want in life. But you know what? At the end of the day, you got to go back and pick the cotton because you're a fucking slave. You have to go clock into your 9 to 5. You have to wake up like a bitch. Your vote matters. Every vote counts. Every single one of them. They all count. We count them all. We count all of them. I swear, I promise. I promise you, on God. We count every single one of them. There's no fallacy. There's no human error. There's no bias. It's fair.
Days passed. Months passed. A year passed.
And
one of them is going to be exposed to high levels, and the whole reason that we've covered them in tinfoil is because the environment of this classroom is filled with that. Right, so we had to try to isolate the plants inside of there and not let the Wi-Fi get in there.
I don't really know if it'll affect anything because, like, I grow plants in my, like, I have Wi-Fi in my house and I grow plants all the time and they grow fine.
It's gonna die.
You think so?
Yeah.
It blew my mind that the Wi-Fi off, like, the plants are growing.
Yeah.
But Wi-Fi on, the plants are growing. So I think that when the Wi-Fi's on, it's affecting the world. Like, affecting the whole entire world.
What are people's arguments against our results going to be?
The Wi-Fi on...
One of them is going to...
But he left one final warning. You once claimed that you have an ability to face unpleasant facts. Is that what you've demonstrated in 1984 by drawing an accurate portrait of the future?
Something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. The moral to be drawn from this dangerous nightmare situation is a simple one. Don't let it happen. It depends on you.
Thank you.
Ich muss weitermachen, sagt er. Sag.
series Moms in Focus, CBS Jen Crawford finds necessity is truly the mother of invention.
That is crazy.
Look at the snow stuck up on the bottom of it.
It's hard to beat the library.
Right?
Especially when you have to keep your eye on your
That
number one.
I've never seen before.
Here I can just get there.
I just saw it earlier.
The following footage shows someone who's by himself inside a gym when something terrifying happens. Emily Ruiz, who suggested the video, writes, "Words cannot explain this disturbing footage. The person in the video had obtained this recording from the gym and sent it to a friend who we hear speaking in the video. This is what was captured."
Es que pasaron cosas muy extrañas, la madre. Hasta,
¿Y qué le pasó, papi?
hasta una máquina se movió. Vea, mire, explíqueme eso. Vea,
Sí, eso
dos
porque
cuerdas
se
y...
mueve atrás.
Yo, ¿qué vas a ver, mamá? Y la otra quieta, o sea, no podemos decir que es el aire, ni que hay ventilación, ni nada de esas vainas.
Eso es como
y en
encerrado.
plena luz del día, ¿quién dice que estas maricadas pasan en plena luz del día? No. Mire, la luz. Mire, mire. Mire, ahí. Mire eso. Mire eso.
Uy, ¿eso qué pasó? ¿Por qué eso se
Y esa,
mueve?
esa vaina es pesadísima, eso es pesadísimo.
¿Sí?
Sí, parece eso es una energía muy mala.
¡Ay, Dios mío! ¿Qué le pasó?
Mamá, mire.
No, Dios, no, no, eso no es normal.
Sí, yo sé
Eso
que...
no es normal,
Sí,
no.
ya sé.
Those who've seen the footage were left unsettled by this terrifying encounter. At the start of the video, we can see that someone or something is peeking at this person. This is something you might have missed. Now, it's worth mentioning that another camera had recorded this from a different angle. By looking at this specific footage, we can see that the facility has open windows. It could be that the wind from outside the room was causing the ropes to move on their own. But if that were the case, then other things in the room should have moved as well, especially the towel on the box, which appears light enough to move just a bit, but it doesn't. The wind could also explain the ball's movement, but mind you, this is a medicine ball. It would take more than just a gust of wind to be able to move something this heavy. But what's even more baffling about this footage is how the person gets dragged across the floor. It could be that he was doing this on his own, moving his body in such a way to make it seem as though he were being dragged. However, a closer look at this scene shows that he was jerked in a forceful manner, which is almost impossible to do on one's own. Other things in the video remain questionable, such as lights turning off on their own, or whatever this is. I'll leave it to you to come up with your own conclusion on this footage. Feel free to let me know what you think.